Hey guys, it's Jane. I'm here to do my November wrap-up. So let's get into it. I should really start by saying a big thank you to Jo at Jo Reads Books because she did a shout out for me and a couple of other YouTubers during this month. Thank you, Jo. You're a star. And for those of you who are new via Jo or elsewise during the month, hi, and I'm really kind of pleased to have you here. November was an alright reading month for me. Life has been just a bit, so my reading suffers a little bit. Not necessarily quantity. That's one of my personal problems. I think it's the quantity stays up, but the concentration drops. So, I'm not sure that the last couple of things I read really got the attention that they deserved. But that's what happened. November was Read Kids Lit Month, which Leslie at Words of a Reader sponsored. It's really worth doing a search for hashtag Read Kids Lit. There's lots of people who have done some really interesting reviews of a quite broad range of kids' books. I took part in this in a small way. I wasn't just reading kids' books, but I did a few. I did a review of the 13-Story Treehouse. So there's a video review of that, and I did a review of the Ashtown Burial series, which I loved. So if you're even vaguely interested, I'd really like you to check out maybe my video, but most of all the books. And in exciting news, which I've just heard today, it's not new news, I was looking around and I read it today. There is actually going to be a 4th Ashtown Burial book, which I am so excited about. As far as I can tell, there's no release date as of yet, but the author is in the process of writing number 4. So that's exciting. Other things that happened this month. Another hashtag that I was supposed to be down with this month was Warvember, which Brock at Let's Read, he was involved in like a million. Hey Brock, a million co-reads this month, according to your video at the beginning of the month. And I'm looking forward to hear how that all went, buddy. But I thought I'd read one of these. I read Warbreaker, which is a Brandon Sanderson fantasy. Let me see if I can do a mega quick précis of this book. If you're actually interested in hearing about this book, I imagine there's going to be lots of other people reviewing it. So look around for hashtag Warvember and you'll hear what a whole bunch of people thought about this. It's the story of two sisters who are princesses. Their father, the king, has made a treaty with their neighbouring country, who are basically enemies but not currently at war. And the part of the treaty is that when his eldest daughter comes of age, he will send her as a bride for the god king of the neighbouring country. But as the day approaches, the king realises that he cannot find it in himself to send off his favourite, beautiful, obedient, self-disciplined and wonderful eldest daughter, but knows that if he doesn't send her, that will be a pretext for war. And he doesn't want a war because they are not in a good position to fight a war. So he wants to put off the war for as long as possible, and so he should send his daughter, but he cannot bring himself to do it. And so what he does is he sends his younger daughter instead. His younger, slightly less loved, slightly less important, slightly less valuable daughter. And who has not been at all prepared for this role, sends her down. So the story is basically, it's told from the two different sisters' perspectives. One, the younger daughter thrust into this position in a foreign alien court And there's also the story of her sister, who spent her entire life preparing for this role, that at the very last instant is taken away from her and given to her sister. I enjoyed this book. I didn't love it, but it was a good book. It was a good book. It was a good read. It was enjoyable. There were some interesting themes. The characters were well drawn. I've read 6 or 7 Brandon Sanderson's books, and I've not enjoyed any of them. Like, he is solid. So yeah, but having said that, it didn't rock my world. So that was Warbreaker, #Warvember. Okay, other things that I read this month. I read 2 graphic novels. This is the graphic adaptation of Neil Gaiman's The Graveyard Book. At least it's the first half, volume 1. I'm actually going to suspend judgment on these until I've read the second one. The other one that I read was this. I just read this weekend, Sally Heathcote, Suffragette. On my Friday Reads video on Friday, I said that this wasn't a novel, a graphic novel, because it was historical. But I was wrong. Well, I was right and wrong. It is a graphic novel. It's based on a true story, sort of. Sally Heathcote is a composite figure rather than based on a particular suffragette. I really enjoyed the art. It's just line drawings, but it's really well done. The book it's not the easiest read. I don't think it was written for kids. It's very concerned with conveying the actual complexities of the history as it happened. There's a lot of stuff about disagreements between different factions within the suffragette movement. Yeah, I would recommend it, but be aware that you actually have to think quite hard to keep up with this. So the other 4 things that I read this month were Carpentaria by Alexis Wright. Sorry, brain freeze there for a moment. I also did a review of this earlier in the month. This was an amazing book. It's actually quite an important book. I think it won the Miles Franklin Literary Award, which is the big literary award in Australia a few years ago. It is a novel by an Aboriginal woman author about what it is to be an Aboriginal in Australia. It was quite a challenging read, but really worthwhile. So if you're at all interested, as I said, I've done a full review of that. The other 3 things that I've read this month were The Slow Regard of Silent Things by Patrick Rothfuss. This is a novella set in the King Killer Chronicle world. I enjoyed this for what it was. If you are a King Killer fan, that's The Name of the Wind and what's the second one called? Something else. You need to know, if you're going to read this, that this is not another one of those. The only character in this story is Ori. She's a minor character in the King Killer world. She's a friend of Quoth's who lives in the Underthing. She lives entirely by herself. Yeah, it's about the quality of her life. And yeah, I did really enjoy it. There is one thing which quasi sort of almost ruined it for me, which is one of those things that you just hate it when that happens, because you're enjoying a book and then one thing happens and you're like, ah. And this is something which it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter at all, but it just does. So there is a section in which Ori is making soap, which is really quite an extended section of the story. Patrick Rothfuss goes into enormous detail about all the different things that she does to, all the different steps and stages that she does to make the soap. And it's all really quite accurate, right up until the point where she does something very wrong with the soap. Now, most people A, wouldn't know, and B, wouldn't care. But I actually make soap. And so I was loving the soap sonata, you know, the soap symphony. I was really, really, really enjoying it. And then it was narratively necessary, I suppose. But he skips a very, very important step in soap making, which I kind of can't forgive him for. I'm sorry. It's just, yeah. So for those of you who aren't soap makers and who like the, you know, King Killer story, I would recommend this to you. If you happen to be a soap maker, then, you know, there's a trigger warning, basically. How, yeah, could I be any more random than that? Anyway, so that was the slow regard for Silent Things. There is 2 other things that I've read. The Peripheral, William Gibson's The Peripheral. I'm not actually going to talk about that. I'm really sorry. I'm not actually, I finished it just a couple of days ago, and I think it warrants its own review. So I'm going to record a review of that, hopefully in sometime this week. Suffice to say, I did enjoy this book, which, you know, I have been looking forward to this book. Really, really, really looking forward to this book because I'm a big William Gibson fan, and I wasn't disappointed. That is as much as I'm going to say right now today. The last book that I read, which I actually just finished today, was Ready Player One, and actually I was a little disappointed with this. I think maybe I was just expecting a bit much. I was expecting it to be a bit more substantial than it was, I think. That may be my problem with it. It was fun, I suppose. I guess I really did enjoy it. It's certainly a page turner. But yeah, I was disappointed. So there's that. The very, very last thing that I wanted to say is I did a tag video this month called Pretty Bookish Secrets tag, and I actually didn't think going into it that I had terribly many secrets. But first question was about books that you're ashamed of not having read. I'd just like to say that I'm so pleased I made that video because I have turned my life around. The book that the friend lent me that I've been putting off for handing back because I didn't want to tell her that I didn't want to read it, I gave it back. So yay me, I gave it back. And the other 2 books that I mentioned there were War and Peace and The Brothers Karamazov. And after having made the video, I actually did a look around and read a few articles. I have downloaded a new translation of Brothers Karamazov onto my e-reader, and I am jolly well going to give another good old college try. So yay me. And War and Peace, you're going down. I'm going to finish you. That is going to happen. That is going to happen. So you heard it here first. I'm not 100% sure whether it's going to happen in December. I realised this morning that I'm actually really in the mood for a rereading binge. I think I'm going to spend most of this month rereading old favourites because my brain needs a break, and December is always bananas. Yeah, so that is what I am planning on doing. So that's me. That was what I did in November. That's what I'm looking forward to doing in December. If you've read any of these books, I know I've rambled like crazy today, but if you've read any of these books and have something to tell me about them, I'd love to hear that. So please do comment below, and also if you read anything super good in November, I'd like to hear about that as well. I hope you're all well, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.